Welcome to the very first episode of the Software Spectrum, where we dissect the universe of software product development, from massive enterprise solutions to the apps on your phone.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to explore the fundamental, often overlooked differences between building products for large organizations versus for individual consumers. We want to provide a strategic framework for anyone in the tech industry, founders, product managers, engineers, and investors trying to navigate these two very distinct worlds.
Exactly. Many people think software is just software. You write code, you create a product, you sell it. But the reality is that the path you take, the very DNA of your product, is determined by one simple foundational question that you must answer before writing a single line of code. Who is your customer? Answering that question splits the path in two, leading to the worlds of B2B, or business to business, and B2C, business to consumer.
It's a fundamental split that dictates almost every subsequent decision, and today we're starting at that very fork in the road. We'll be exploring the market and customer profiles for both enterprise and consumer software. We'll look at the size and nature of the target audience, the key differences in who makes the purchasing decision, and what drives that decision.
And understanding this is critical because it's the bedrock upon which everything else is built. You can't design a sales strategy, a pricing model, or even a user interface until you know precisely whose problem you are solving. So let's start with the enterprise side, the world of B2B. What does that landscape look like?
The B2B landscape is a world of focused intensity. You aren't trying to sell to everyone. Instead, you're targeting specific organizations, companies, government agencies, universities, hospitals. The total number of potential customers is vastly smaller than in the consumer world, but each one holds significantly more value. We're talking about a smaller number of high-value accounts.
So it's a game of whales, not minnows. You might only have a few hundred or a few thousand potential customers in the entire world, but landing just one can be a multi-million-dollar deal that sustains your company for a year.
Precisely. And because each sale is so significant, the buying process is completely different. It's not one person clicking an add to cart button. In an enterprise sale, you're dealing with a complex web of stakeholders. There's the economic buyer, the executive who signs the check and cares only about the return on investment. There's the technical buyer, perhaps the head of IT or security, who needs to ensure your software integrates with their existing systems and doesn't create vulnerabilities. Then you have the end users, the employees who will actually have to use the software every day and whose adoption is critical for success.
And let's not forget the procurement department, whose job is to negotiate the best possible price and terms, often through lengthy and formal processes like requests for proposals, or RFPs. This leads to what's often called a long and rational buying cycle. It's not an impulse buy.
Not at all. These are highly deliberate, data-driven decisions. The entire process is built around mitigating risk and proving value. The core question from the B2B customer is always, how will this software make our organization more efficient, more profitable, or more competitive? It's a decision driven by pure, cold, hard ROI. Emotions like brand loyalty or personal preference are secondary, if they factor in at all. The purchase has to survive multiple rounds of scrutiny from multiple departments, each with its own agenda and concerns.
It's a fascinating contrast to the B2C world, which often feels like the Wild West in comparison. Here, you're not selling to a committee, you're selling to an individual. You're targeting households, single users, people looking for entertainment, convenience, or connection.
And the scale is completely inverted. The market is massive, potentially encompassing billions of people. The goal isn't to land a few large accounts, but to attract millions or even tens of millions of individual users. And the decision maker is usually just one person. They see an ad on social media, a friend recommends an app, they browse the app store, and the decision to download or purchase can be made in a matter of seconds.
This is where emotion and personal preference become the primary drivers. Does this app look cool? Does it solve an immediate personal pain point? Is it fun to use? The decision is often impulsive, driven by a desire for immediate gratification or value. The user isn't typically creating a spreadsheet to calculate the long-term ROI of a $2.99 app.
No, they are not. And the cost of making a bad decision is incredibly low. If you download an app and you don't like it, you just delete it. The switching costs are minimal. This creates a market where brand loyalty can be extremely fleeting. A user might love your app today and completely forget about it tomorrow when the next big thing comes along. There's a constant pressure to engage and retain users because they can leave so easily.
That's a crucial point. The psychology is fundamentally different. B2B is about organizational need and long-term value. B2C is about individual want and immediate satisfaction.
I think a good way to visualize the difference is to think about construction. Building and selling B2B software is like being a firm that designs and constructs commercial skyscrapers. Your client isn't one person, it's a corporation. You have to work with their board of directors, their finance department, the city planners for permits and zoning, the architects, the structural engineers, and the future tenants.
The buying cycle is incredibly long. It can take years from the initial proposal to breaking ground. The decision is based on complex projections of rental income, operational costs, and long-term asset value. Every single detail, from the HVAC system's efficiency to the building's compliance with safety codes, is scrutinized. The entire project is a multi-million-dollar bet on rational, calculated ROI.
Exactly, and the finished skyscraper will house thousands of people, all of whom must be able to work effectively within the structure you've built. It has to be secure, reliable, and integrate with the city's existing infrastructure like power grids and water lines. Now, contrast that with building and selling B2C software. That's like being a developer who builds and sells single-family homes.
The market is huge. Almost everyone wants a home. The customer is an individual or a small family. The decision to buy is deeply personal and emotional. They're thinking about the color of the kitchen, the feel of the neighborhood, whether they can imagine their kids playing in the backyard.
The sales cycle is much faster. A family might look at a dozen houses over a few weekends and make a decision. While it's a major purchase for them, it's not a multi-year procurement process. They are the sole decision maker. They don't need to get approval from a committee of stakeholders. And their goal is immediate gratification, a comfortable, enjoyable place to live. If they don't like the house, they can sell it in a few years and move. The switching cost exists, but it's a much more fluid and common process than a corporation decommissioning a skyscraper.
That analogy really clarifies the strategic implications. If you're the skyscraper firm, the B2B company, your entire business has to be structured around managing that complexity. You need highly skilled account managers who can build deep relationships with all those different stakeholders over a long period. Your marketing isn't a billboard on the highway. It's detailed white papers, case studies, and one-on-one meetings with executives. Your resources are heavily invested in a small number of very large, very important deals.
And if you're the home builder, the B2C company, your strategy is all about scale and adoption. You need to be an expert in mass marketing to reach millions of potential buyers. Your focus is on creating a product with broad appeal and an incredible curb appeal, a beautiful user experience and user interface that makes people fall in love at first sight. Your investment is in user acquisition at scale and creating a seamless, frictionless purchasing process. You're optimizing for ease of adoption.
So, the choice of your target market, business or consumer, isn't just a marketing decision. It fundamentally dictates how you structure your company, where you allocate your capital, and what kind of talent you need to hire. It's the difference between needing a team of expert negotiators and relationship managers versus needing a team of brilliant growth hackers and UX designers.
It really is the foundational decision, and getting it wrong or trying to straddle the line without a clear strategy is one of the fastest ways for a software company to fail. You can't build a skyscraper using the tools and processes for building a single-family home, and vice versa. The physics of each market are simply different.
Which brings us to a perfect transition. Now that we've established who these different customers are, the next logical step is to understand how you actually reach them and persuade them to buy. The strategies are just as divergent as the customer profiles themselves.
That's right. In our next episode, we'll dive deep into the world of sales and go-to-market strategy. We'll explore the complex, relationship-driven sales cycles of the B2B world with its dedicated sales teams and account-based marketing, and contrast it with the high-volume, mass-market approach of B2C, driven by advertising, social media, and viral growth. It's a fascinating look at how you take a product and actually place it in the hands of the customers we've just defined.
Welcome to the Software Spectrum, where we dissect the universe of software, one binary at a time. Last time, we explored the foundational question of who the customer is, drawing a sharp line between the intricate organizational web of B2B and the vast individualistic sea of B2C.
We established that you're either selling to a boardroom or a living room. That single choice dictates almost everything that follows. It's the root system from which the entire product strategy grows. But knowing your customer is only the first step. The real challenge is bridging the gap between your product and their hands.
Precisely, which brings us to the core of today's discussion, the how. How do you actually connect with these disparate customer profiles? What are the mechanisms, the strategies, the sheer mechanics of getting your software into the marketplace? Today, we're diving deep into the world of sales and go-to-market strategies, exploring the starkly different paths B2B and B2C products take from creation to acquisition.
It's a fascinating contrast. On one side, you have a process that can feel like a high-stakes diplomatic mission, and on the other, something more akin to a blockbuster movie premiere. We'll look at why enterprise sales are built on relationships and can take months, even years to close. Then we'll flip the coin and examine the high-velocity, mass-market tactics that define the consumer space. Understanding this is crucial because it directly impacts how a software company structures its teams, allocates its budget, and ultimately measures its success.
Let's begin with the enterprise landscape. The provided context highlights that these sales are complex and relationship-driven. This isn't about simply putting a product on a digital shelf. It involves dedicated sales teams, channel partners, and a very structured, often lengthy engagement process.
That's the key right there. It's a process, not a transaction. Think of selling a major enterprise software suite, say a new ERP system for a global logistics company. You aren't just selling code, you're selling a fundamental change to their entire operation. The sales cycle here isn't a quick pitch, it's a courtship.
A very long and formal courtship. It begins with initial outreach, often account-based marketing, where you're targeting specific companies, not broad demographics. This leads to a series of demonstrations, deep-dive technical calls, and proof-of-concept projects. Then comes the formidable RFP, the request for proposal, where the customer lays out dozens, sometimes hundreds of specific requirements that the software must meet.
And each of those steps involves different people on the buyer side. The initial demo might be for a department head. The technical call involves their IT and security teams. The RFP response will be scrutinized by procurement and legal. And the final sign-off has to come from a C-level executive who is focused purely on the return on investment. The salesperson is a guide, a consultant, a negotiator. Navigating this complex web of stakeholders is their primary job.
This multi-stakeholder environment is why the sales cycle is so protracted. Closing a single deal can easily take 6 to 18 months. The order values are substantial, often in the 6, 7, or even 8-figure range, which naturally invites intense scrutiny. No one makes a $2 million decision on a whim.
It's like building a custom super yacht. The client doesn't walk into a showroom and point at one. They come with a vision. There are meetings with naval architects, interior designers, and engine specialists. Blueprints are drawn, models are built, materials are negotiated. The process takes years because the investment is massive, and the final product has to be perfectly tailored to the owner's specific complex needs. B2B software sales are the same. It's a bespoke, consultative build, not an off-the-shelf purchase. The focus is on the long-term partnership, not the initial transaction.
An excellent analogy, and it highlights the marketing tactics involved. You mentioned account-based marketing. This is supported by deep-dive content like white papers, case studies, and webinars. It's about demonstrating expertise and building credibility over time. You don't see catchy social media ads for enterprise-grade cybersecurity platforms. You see booths at industry trade shows and one-on-one executive dinners. It's a targeted, rifle-shot approach.
Exactly. Now, let's pivot completely and look at the consumer world. If B2B is a rifle, B2C is a giant net cast across the ocean.
The entire paradigm is inverted. The go-to-market strategy for consumer products is fundamentally a one-to-many broadcast. The goal is volume. Instead of a dedicated sales team for each customer, you rely on mass market channels to reach millions of potential users at once.
Think about downloading a new mobile game or a photo editing app. The sales cycle is effectively zero. A user might see an ad on Instagram, click the link to the App Store, and hit download. The entire journey from awareness to acquisition can take less than 30 seconds. There's no demo, no RFP, no negotiation. It's an impulse-driven, immediate decision.
This speed necessitates a completely different set of tactics. B2C marketing is about grabbing attention on a massive scale. This is where you see viral campaigns, influencer collaborations, Super Bowl commercials, and aggressive social media advertising. The entire machinery is built for rapid, widespread user acquisition.
The distribution channels are also fundamentally different. Instead of channel partners or direct sales reps, you have the App Store, the Google Play Store, or maybe retail partners like Best Buy. The platform itself becomes your primary salesperson and distributor. The goal is to reduce friction to an absolute minimum. A one-click purchase or a free download is the ideal outcome.
This is why user experience and brand marketing are so paramount in B2C. With no salesperson to guide the user, the product must sell itself. The onboarding has to be intuitive, the value proposition has to be immediate, and the brand has to be appealing enough to stand out in a ridiculously crowded marketplace.
It's the difference between a high-end bespoke tailor and a global fast fashion brand like Zara or H&M. The tailor builds a relationship, takes precise measurements, and spends weeks crafting a single suit for one high-value client. Zara, on the other hand, uses global trend analysis, massive advertising campaigns, and an incredibly efficient supply chain to sell millions of affordable shirts to the masses through thousands of retail stores. The goal isn't a perfect, deep relationship with each customer. It's about volume, accessibility, and speed. One is about depth, the other is about breadth.
This brings us to the strategic implications, which are profound. We're talking about two fundamentally different business models. A B2B firm must allocate its resources to hiring, training, and supporting a skilled and often expensive sales and account management team. Their budget is dominated by headcount and the costs associated with a long, high-touch sales process.
And their financial projections are all about pipeline coverage and deal closure rates. They trade a longer time to revenue for a much larger average deal size and, hopefully, higher lifetime value per customer. Success is measured by landing and expanding those key accounts.
In contrast, a B2C company invests heavily in scalable marketing and distribution. Their budget is skewed towards advertising spend, content creation, and partnership marketing. They need data scientists to optimize ad campaigns and community managers to engage with users on social media, not an army of salespeople.
They prioritize speed and volume above all else. Success is measured in metrics like cost per install, daily active users, and churn rate. They accept a much lower revenue per user, but compensate with a massive user base. They're playing a game of large numbers where small percentage improvements in conversion rates can translate into millions in revenue.
So, it's a classic trade-off. B2B bets on depth, investing in the resources to nurture a few very large deals to fruition. B2C bets on breadth, investing in the technology and marketing to efficiently acquire and monetize millions of individual users. Neither approach is inherently better, but choosing the wrong one for your product and market is a recipe for failure.
It is. The go-to-market strategy must be in perfect alignment with the customer profile we discussed in our last episode. And as you can imagine, how you sell a product and who you sell it to are inextricably linked to the final piece of the puzzle, how you charge for it. The complex, negotiated, value-based sale of an enterprise product simply cannot support a simple fixed pricing model.
And the high-volume, low-friction model of a consumer app can't support a lengthy price negotiation with every user. The go-to-market strategy directly informs the pricing and revenue model. That's where we'll be heading next time on the software spectrum, as we unpack the critical differences between B2B and B2C pricing, from multi-year enterprise contracts to the freemium models that power the app economy. Welcome to the software spectrum, B2B versus B2C. In our last discussion, we navigated the very different worlds of go-to-market strategies, contrasting the targeted, relationship-driven sales process of the enterprise with the broad, high-volume marketing of the consumer space. Today, we're following that path to its logical conclusion: the money. How do these divergent strategies translate into the way software is actually priced and paid for? It's a crucial question because the revenue model isn't just an afterthought. It fundamentally shapes the product, the company, and the customer relationship.
Exactly. We'll be exploring why one software transaction might involve months of negotiation and a multi-year contract, while another is a 99-cent impulse buy on an app store. We'll dissect the core concepts of value-based pricing in B2B versus the standardized, psychology-driven models in B2C.
And we'll examine the strategic implications of these choices. Understanding this is essential because it reveals why a B2B company obsesses over ROI justification, while a B2C company lives and dies by its customer acquisition cost and churn rate. It's the financial bedrock upon which these two software universes are built.
Let's begin with the enterprise landscape. When a business decides to procure a new piece of software, say a new CRM or an ERP system, the price is rarely a simple number listed on a website. It's the start of a conversation.
That's the perfect way to put it. The process is high-touch and consultative from the very beginning. The foundational principle here is value-based pricing. The vendor's entire goal is to quantify the value their product will deliver to the client. They aren't selling features, they're selling outcomes. The core question they help the buyer answer is, by implementing this software, how much more revenue will we generate, or how much will we save in operational costs?
And the final price is positioned as a fraction of that projected value, which is why the price tags can be so high. If a piece of software can demonstrably save a company $10 million a year, a $1 million annual license fee can be framed as a fantastic deal.
Precisely. This thinking directly leads to the complex, tiered pricing structures we see everywhere in B2B. A common model is pricing per user or per seat, which intuitively scales the cost with the size of the client's team. But it can get much more granular. You might see pricing tiers based on feature sets: a basic plan, a professional plan, and an enterprise plan with all the bells and whistles. Or it could be usage-based, tied to the volume of data processed, the number of API calls made, or the amount of storage used. It's all about aligning the cost with the utility. The vendor is trying to create a flexible framework where the price can be tailored to match the specific needs and scale of each individual client. Negotiation isn't just possible, it's an expected and standard part of the process. The initial quote is just the opening bid.
I like to think of it as the difference between buying a production car and commissioning a commercial vehicle. If you or I want to buy a car, we go to a dealership. We look at the sticker price, maybe haggle a bit, but we're ultimately choosing from a set of standard models and option packages. That's not how a global logistics company buys a fleet of 5,000 delivery vans.
That's a great analogy.
That company has a team of procurement specialists who will issue a detailed request for proposal. They'll negotiate directly with the manufacturer to create a custom vehicle. They'll specify the exact engine performance, the precise dimensions of the cargo bay, the type of refrigeration unit needed, the specific telematics and GPS hardware to be installed. The final price will be a complex, bespoke quote that reflects every one of those custom requirements. The price is high, but it's justified by the ROI that this perfectly tailored fleet will provide to their business operations. Enterprise software is that custom fleet.
And now let's cross the spectrum to the consumer world. If B2B is about bespoke configuration, B2C is about mass market simplicity. Here, the primary goals are eliminating friction and achieving massive scale. The pricing has to reflect that.
Absolutely. The defining words are transparency and standardization. You have a potential audience of millions or even billions of users. You simply cannot have a unique pricing conversation with each one. The price itself becomes a key part of the marketing. It needs to be simple, easy to understand, and compelling enough to trigger an immediate decision.
This is the realm of the freemium model, which has become dominant. The strategy is to make the core product completely free to use, removing the barrier to entry entirely. This allows a company to acquire a massive user base very quickly. The business model then relies on converting a small percentage of those free users into paying subscribers who want access to premium features, more storage, or an ad-free experience.
And if users don't pay with their money, they often pay with their attention. Ad-supported models are the other pillar of free consumer software. The service is provided at no cost to the end user because advertisers are footing the bill to get their messages in front of that user base. Revenue is generated through impressions and clicks, not direct user payments.
Beyond the free models, B2C pricing is a masterclass in applied psychology. You rarely see a price like $10. You see $9.99. That's charm pricing, and it works. We mentally anchor to the 9 and perceive the price as significantly lower. We also see the constant use of artificial scarcity and urgency, the limited time offer, or the 50% off for the first year promotion.
Bundling is another classic tactic. A software service might bundle in cloud storage and a companion mobile app for a single price that feels like a better value than buying them separately. The individual consumer is highly price-sensitive, so the entire strategy is built around perception and maximizing conversion rates. Negotiation is completely off the table.
To go back to your vehicle analogy, if B2B is the custom fleet, B2C is the vending machine in a busy train station.
Exactly. The products and prices are clearly displayed behind glass. You see what you want, a bag of chips for $1.75, you insert your payment, and the product is dispensed. The transaction is immediate, standardized, and requires zero human interaction. The company that owns the machine isn't concerned with negotiating the price of a single bag of chips. Their focus is on economies of scale, ensuring the machine is in a location with maximum foot traffic and is stocked with the most popular items to drive a high volume of sales. That's the B2C pricing game.
These two fundamentally different approaches to pricing obviously lead to vastly different business strategies. In the B2B world, the entire company structure must be geared towards justifying the product's value. This puts immense pressure on sales and marketing teams.
It really does. A B2B salesperson can't just demo features. They must act as a consultant, building a detailed business case for the customer. They need to create ROI models, project efficiency gains, and clearly demonstrate how the software will positively impact the client's bottom line. The high margins on these large multi-year contracts are what justify the long, resource-intensive sales cycles we discussed previously.
And because those contracts are so valuable, customer retention is paramount. Growth doesn't just come from landing new clients, it comes from renewing and expanding existing accounts. This is why the customer success role is so critical in B2B. It's a dedicated function focused on ensuring the client is getting the promised value, which in turn secures the renewal.
On the other side of the spectrum, B2C is a game of large numbers and thin margins. You don't have the luxury of high-touch relationships. The product must sell itself. The company's focus shifts to meticulously tracking key metrics. They are obsessed with customer acquisition cost, or CAC. How much does it cost in marketing and advertising to get one new user? And they compare that to the lifetime value, or LTV, of that customer.
The business is only viable if LTV is significantly greater than CAC. And the biggest threat to that equation is churn, the rate at which users cancel their subscriptions or stop using the app. Even a seemingly low monthly churn rate of 3 to 4% can be catastrophic, as it means you're losing nearly half your customer base every year.
Which is why B2C companies pour resources into user experience design, A/B testing, and data analytics. They need to create a product that is so seamless, engaging, and indispensable that users can't imagine leaving. They need to control their operational costs with ruthless efficiency, because every dollar counts when your average revenue per user is just a few dollars a month.
So, to summarize the core strategic difference, B2B pricing is a high-stakes, high-margin negotiation centered on demonstrating long-term, quantifiable business value.
While B2C pricing is a high-volume, low-margin tactical game that relies on accessibility, psychological persuasion, and operational excellence to succeed at scale.
It's a fascinating contrast, and it seems that the complex, negotiated price in the enterprise world is often directly tied to the client's need for the product to be uniquely adapted to their environment. The price isn't just for the software itself, but for the work required to make it fit.
That's the perfect bridge to our next conversation. That hefty B2B price tag is often an upfront acknowledgement that the software is not a finished product, but a flexible toolkit. The cost covers the significant effort required to integrate it with the client's existing systems, configure it for their unique workflows, and sometimes even build custom features.
Which leads us directly to the topic for our next episode: product customization and integration.
We'll explore why one product must be engineered for maximum flexibility, like a set of building blocks, while the other needs to be a perfectly polished, self-contained appliance that works for everyone, right out of the box. Join us next time on the Software Spectrum.
Welcome, and you're listening to the Software Spectrum, B2B versus B2C. Think about the last app you downloaded on your phone. Chances are you were up and running in under a minute. A quick sign-up, maybe a short tutorial, and you were in. Now contrast that with a powerful enterprise system, like a new CRM for a large company. The implementation process can take months, sometimes even years. Why does one form of software feel like an instant tool, while the other feels like a major construction project?
That question is precisely what we're exploring today. It goes far beyond just the user interface. It speaks to a fundamental divergence in philosophy. Last time, we discussed how the pricing models for B2B and B2C software are worlds apart. A key justification for the high price tag on enterprise software is its promise of adaptability, its ability to become a bespoke part of a company's unique operational fabric. That promise is delivered through customization and integration.
Exactly, and that's our focus for this episode. We'll be dissecting why one product is designed to be used as is, while the other is built to be reconfigured. We will examine the very different approaches to product customization, explore the critical role of APIs and system integrations in both worlds, and finally, we'll analyze the profound strategic implications these differences have on the development process, the architecture of the software, and the very structure of the teams that build them.
Understanding this is essential because it reveals that we're not just talking about adding more features for business users. We're talking about two fundamentally different concepts of what a software product even is. For one, it's a finished piece. For the other, it's a set of powerful building blocks.
Let's start with the consumer side of the spectrum, which is more familiar to most. B2C products are designed for immediate consumption by a vast, heterogeneous audience. The guiding principle is uniformity.
It's like buying a high-end kitchen appliance, say a convection oven. It's been engineered, tested, and polished to perform a specific set of functions exceptionally well for almost any user. You take it out of the box, plug it in, and it works. You have some basic configuration options. You can set the temperature, the timer, maybe a pre-programmed setting for pizza, but that's where it ends. You aren't expected to open it up and rewire it to also cool your food. Its value lies in its simplicity and reliability in doing what it was designed to do.
That's a perfect analogy. In the software world, these configurations are things like choosing between light and dark mode, setting notification preferences, or organizing your personal dashboard. They're settings that personalize the user's experience without altering the core functionality of the product. The goal is to make a single, standardized product feel personal, but it remains one product for millions of users.
And when we talk about integration in the B2C context, it's similarly standardized and straightforward. Think about signing into a new service using your Google or Apple account. That's an integration. Or connecting a fitness app to your phone's health data. These integrations are with ubiquitous consumer platforms that a massive number of people already use. The developers build these few common bridges because they reduce friction for the largest possible segment of their user base. They aren't building a unique bridge for every single user's niche set of other apps. The focus is on mass convenience, not individual utility.
Now let's cross the spectrum over to the enterprise world. The entire philosophy is inverted. A B2B product that cannot be customized or integrated is often a non-starter. Businesses are not uniform. A manufacturing company has vastly different operational workflows than a financial services firm or a healthcare provider. They have pre-existing, complex ecosystems of software that run their core operations.
This is where the out-of-the-box model breaks down completely. The new software isn't the star of the show. It's a new actor joining a long-running play. It has to know its lines, interact with the other actors, and fit into the established blocking. An enterprise product must be a chameleon, capable of adapting to the client's specific environment. This is achieved through things like configurable modules, where a company can choose to turn on certain functionalities and leave others off.
It goes even deeper, into customer-specific workflows. A business might have a unique multi-stage approval process for expenses that is dictated by both internal policy and external regulations. The software can't force them to change their process. It must be molded to digitally replicate and even enhance that exact workflow. This is no longer just about user settings. It's about reconfiguring the fundamental logic of the application for each customer.
And this brings us back to the kitchen analogy. If the B2C app is a single polished appliance, the B2B enterprise platform is an entire commercial kitchen. It's not one product. It's a modular system of interconnected stations, prep areas, grills, ovens, freezers, and plating stations. No two commercial kitchens are identical because they are designed to support a specific menu and a specific number of diners. The Michelin star restaurant has a different layout and different equipment from the high-volume catering kitchen.
And the critical part of that analogy is interconnected. The value isn't just in the individual stations, but in how they work together. This is the world of enterprise integration. B2B software must be able to seamlessly connect to the client's existing systems of record. We're talking about deep two-way data synchronization with their ERP system that manages inventory and financials, their CRM that holds all their customer data, and their identity and access management, or IAM solutions that control employee permissions.
These systems are the company's central nervous system. A new piece of software that can't talk to them is like a limb with no nerve endings. It's useless. This is why APIs, or application programming interfaces, are so fundamental in B2B. They are the standardized electrical outlets and plumbing hookups in our commercial kitchen. They provide a documented, reliable way for different systems, often built by completely different vendors decades apart, to communicate, share data, and trigger actions in one another.
That technical reality has massive consequences for development. Building a robust, secure, and well-documented API is an enormous undertaking. It often requires as much, if not more, development effort than building the user-facing features. This is a primary reason for the longer development cycles in B2B. You're not just building a product, you're building a platform designed to be built upon. You have to consider not only how your own user interface will work, but also how your client's developers will programmatically interact with your system. The architecture must be incredibly flexible and modular to support unknown future customizations and scalable enough to handle the data load of a Fortune 500 company.
This leads directly to the strategic implications for the teams building these products. A B2C product team is often laser-focused on user experience and conversion funnels. They live and breathe metrics like daily active users, engagement rates, and churn. Their world is one of A/B testing, user journey mapping, and reducing friction to an absolute minimum, because their success depends on mass adoption by individuals who have very low switching costs.
Compare that to a B2B product team. While UI/UX is still important, a huge amount of their resources are allocated to back-end architecture, API stability, and platform reliability. They might spend an entire quarter developing a new integration connector or enhancing the custom workflow engine. Their definition of a user expands to include the client's IT department, their implementation partners, and the developers who will build on top of their platform. They might even have a dedicated professional services wing, a team of consultants and engineers whose entire job is to help clients execute these complex custom implementations.
And that ties everything back to our previous discussion on pricing. That high negotiated contract price for enterprise software isn't just for the code. It's funding the massive architectural investment and flexibility. It's paying for the army of solution architects and support engineers. The customer is paying to have the commercial kitchen designed and installed to their exact specifications, not just for a pile of appliances dropped on their doorstep. The return on investment for them comes from how well while that tailored system optimizes their specific, complex business operations.
So to summarize, the fundamental divide is this. B2C product development is a pursuit of the perfect universal object. It focuses on polishing a single core product to be as intuitive and appealing as possible for the largest number of individuals. B2B development, on the other hand, is the pursuit of the ultimate flexible toolkit. It focuses on creating a robust, modular platform that can be configured, customized, and integrated to become a myriad of different, specific solutions for a diverse set of organizations.
Precisely. It's the difference between crafting a perfect hammer and designing a comprehensive toolbox with interchangeable parts. One is designed for a single purpose executed beautifully. The other is designed to empower the user to build whatever they need. And this deep-seated difference in philosophy has another major consequence. Once the product is sold, once the B2C user has downloaded the app or the B2B kitchen has been installed, what happens next? What happens when something goes wrong?
That's a crucial question. The complexity and mission-critical nature of a custom integrated enterprise system implies a very different level of post-sale responsibility. You can't just have a chatbot for a system that processes millions of dollars in transactions per hour.
Exactly. And that very distinction, how you support a user who forgot their password versus how you support a global corporation whose core business process is down, is a chasm as wide as the one we've discussed today. That is where we'll be heading in our next episode as we explore the world of support, onboarding, and service.
Welcome to the Software Spectrum, where we dissect the DNA of software, exploring the deep chasm between building for businesses and building for consumers. In our last episode, we unpacked the intricate world of product customization and integration, revealing how B2B software is often a complex, bespoke suit of armor, while B2C software is more akin to a ready-to-wear, one-size-fits-most garment.
That discussion on customization really sets the stage for today's topic. Because once a product is built, be it a highly tailored enterprise system or a sleek consumer app, how do you actually get it into the hands of the user and ensure they can use it effectively? The journey doesn't end at deployment. In fact, for many, that's just the beginning.
Precisely. Today, we're moving beyond the code and into the crucial yet often overlooked realm of human interaction and support infrastructure. We'll be exploring the monumental differences in support, onboarding, and service between the B2B and B2C landscapes. We'll look at why one demands a white-glove, high-touch approach, while the other thrives on a model of scalable self-service.
And this isn't just a matter of customer preference. It's a fundamental strategic decision that dictates a company's budget, staffing, and even its core product design. The way you support a product is as much a part of the product experience as any feature or function. It's the difference between having a personal guide for a complex journey and being handed a map and a compass. Both can get you to your destination, but the experience, the cost, and the expectations are worlds apart.
Let's start with the enterprise side of the spectrum. When a company invests hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars into a software solution, their expectations for service are justifiably sky high. This isn't a casual purchase, it's a critical business dependency.
Absolutely. In the B2B world, the concept of service begins long before a support ticket is ever filed. It starts with onboarding. This isn't a simple welcome email with a link to a tutorial. Enterprise onboarding is a structured, intensive process. It often involves dedicated teams, implementation specialists, project managers, and trainers who work directly with the client for weeks or even months. Their job is to integrate the software into the client's existing, complex ecosystem, configure it for their specific workflows, and train entire departments on how to use it effectively.
This is because, as we discussed previously, the software has likely been customized for that client. The onboarding process, therefore, is just as custom. You're not just teaching them to use a tool, you're helping them adapt their business processes to leverage this new, powerful system. It requires deep technical collaboration and a thorough understanding of the client's business objectives.
And once the system is live, the high-touch relationship doesn't end. Enterprise customers are typically assigned a dedicated account manager or a customer success team. This isn't just a helpline, it's a proactive partnership. These teams are responsible for ensuring the client is getting maximum value from the product. They'll have regular check-ins, performance reviews, and strategic planning sessions. They're anticipating needs, not just reacting to problems. A single large enterprise client can represent a significant portion of a vendor's revenue, so keeping that client successful and satisfied is paramount.
This proactive relationship is often formalized through service-level agreements, or SLAs. These are contractual obligations that guarantee specific levels of performance, uptime, and support response times. If a critical system goes down, the SLA might dictate that a senior engineer must be engaged within 15 minutes, 24/7, 365 days a year. Failure to meet these SLAs can result in significant financial penalties for the vendor.
The nature of the support requests themselves is also fundamentally different. You're not dealing with a user who forgot their password. You're troubleshooting a complex data integration failure between their ERP and your CRM. You might be diagnosing a performance bottleneck that only occurs during their end-of-quarter financial reporting. These issues require highly skilled technical support engineers who can collaborate with the client's IT department, read logs, and understand intricate enterprise workflows. It's a consultative, problem-solving process. A single service failure isn't just an inconvenience. It can halt a company's operations and jeopardize a multi-million-dollar contract.
It's a world built on deep relationships, contractual obligations, and specialized expertise. The financial model of B2B software, with its high contract values and recurring revenue, is what makes this level of investment not just possible, but necessary.
Now, let's slide all the way to the other end of the spectrum, consumer software. If enterprise support is a bespoke concierge service, consumer support is a hyper-efficient, highly automated supermarket. The goal is to serve millions of users with minimal human interaction.
And that begins with the design of the product itself. Onboarding for a B2C application has to be almost invisible. The ideal is that the user can download the app or sign up for the service and immediately understand how to use it. The user interface and user experience, the UI/UX, are the onboarding. It's achieved through intuitive design, contextual tooltips, and perhaps a short, optional product tour. There's no training session, no implementation manager.
Exactly. The product has to teach itself. If a user has a question, the first line of defense is always self-service. This is where you see extensive FAQ sections, knowledge bases, and community forums. The goal is to empower users to find their own answers. If they can't, the next step is often an automated chatbot that can handle common, repetitive queries, like password resets or billing questions. These tools are designed to deflect as many support requests as possible from reaching a human agent.
And when a user does need to contact a human, the interaction is typically through asynchronous channels like email or a ticketing system. Phone support is increasingly rare for B2C products unless it's a premium paid service. The issues are generally low complexity. A feature isn't working as expected, a payment failed, or they have a simple how-to question. The support agents are trained to resolve these routine issues quickly and efficiently, often using scripts and macros.
The entire economic model is different. The average consumer might be paying nothing or perhaps a few dollars a month. It would be financially impossible to provide each of those users with a dedicated account manager. The strategy isn't to prevent any single customer from ever having a problem. It's to build a system that can gracefully handle a certain volume of user friction at a massive scale. The cost of losing one free user is negligible. Therefore, the investment is poured into making the product itself better and the self-service channels more comprehensive, rather than into a large, highly skilled support team.
It's a numbers game. B2C companies mitigate user frustration through low switching costs. If a user gets annoyed with one music streaming app, there are half a dozen others they can try in a matter of minutes. The brand loyalty is far more tenuous, and the tolerance for poor user experience is much lower. But the expectation for personalized human support is almost non-existent.
I think a good analogy here is to think about transportation. Enterprise software support is like owning a private jet. It comes with a dedicated pilot, a flight crew, a maintenance team, and a concierge who plans your entire itinerary. It's incredibly expensive, but it's tailored precisely to your needs, it's highly reliable, and it gets you exactly where you need to go with a very high level of service. You have a contract that guarantees the jet will be available and perform as expected.
A very fitting comparison. The cost is immense, but for a global corporation, that level of service and reliability is a business necessity.
On the other hand, consumer software support is like the public transit system. It's designed to move millions of people efficiently and at a very low cost per person. The onboarding is putting your money in the machine to get a ticket. If you're confused, you look at the map on the wall, the FAQ. There are no dedicated guides for each passenger. If a train is delayed, you wait with everyone else. There's no SLA. If you have a problem, you might be able to talk to a station agent, but they're handling hundreds of other people and can only help with common issues. The system works because of its scale and its well-designed self-service nature. It's not personal, but it's accessible and affordable for the masses.
And the strategic implications of these two models are profound. For a B2B company, a significant portion of its operating budget must be allocated to professional services, customer success teams, and tiered technical support. The cost of sale is high, but the lifetime value of a customer is also massive, justifying that upfront and ongoing investment. The organization is structured around building and maintaining deep, long-term client relationships.
Whereas the B2C company's budget will be heavily skewed towards product design, user experience research, and marketing to acquire a massive user base. Their support budget is focused on the technology and content for their self-service channels, building a better chatbot, writing a clearer knowledge base, and fostering an active user community. Their organizational structure is optimized for rapid growth, user acquisition, and scalable automated systems.
So, to summarize, it's not simply that one is better than the other. They are two fundamentally different philosophies of service, born from two radically different business models and customer relationships. The B2B world is defined by high-touch, deep partnerships and contractual guarantees, treating service as a core feature of the product itself.
And the B2C world is defined by scalable self-service, intuitive design, and automated systems, where the product experience itself is the primary form of support. The choice between these models is one of the most critical strategic decisions a software company can make, impacting everything from its financial structure to its company culture.
This conversation about service and the expectations around it provides a perfect bridge to our next topic. When a B2B system has an SLA guaranteeing 99.999% uptime, and a consumer app can have an outage that becomes a viral meme on social media, it raises critical questions about the underlying engineering.
Exactly. The promises you make in your SLAs and the support model you build are only as good as the software they stand on. This leads us directly into the domain of quality, reliability, and security. How do you build a system that can meet the mission-critical demands of an enterprise? And how does that differ from building a system that needs to be good enough for millions of consumers? That's what we'll be exploring in our next episode.
Welcome to The Software Spectrum, where we dissect the world of software one binary opposition at a time. In our last discussion, we explored the vast differences in support and service models between B2B and B2C products. It became clear that enterprise customers demand a high-touch, white-glove service because the software is often integral to their operations.
Exactly. And that reliance is the perfect jumping-off point for today's episode. We're moving from the human systems that support the software to the technical systems but ensure it functions flawlessly in the first place. Today, we're asking, what does it truly mean for software to be trustworthy? We'll be diving deep into the critical domains of quality, reliability, and security, and exploring how the expectations in these areas diverge dramatically between the enterprise and consumer worlds.
It's a fascinating area because terms like quality and security can feel absolute, but in practice, their implementation is anything but. We'll break down the very different definitions of reliability and uptime, compare the security postures required to protect a multinational corporation versus an individual user, and unravel the complex web of regulatory compliance that governs each space.
This isn't just an academic exercise. Understanding these differences reveals the core strategic choices that engineering and product teams make every single day. The decisions around how much to invest in stability versus speed or in convenience versus control define the very nature of a software product and its viability in the market.
Let's start with the most immediate measure of quality, reliability. When we say a piece of software is reliable, what are we really talking about?
At its core, we're talking about uptime and performance, but the expectations are worlds apart. For enterprise software, reliability is absolutely mission critical. We're talking about systems that are expected to operate 24/7 with minimal downtime, because every minute they're offline could translate into millions of dollars in lost revenue or productivity. Think about the software that runs a bank's trading floor or a hospital's patient record system. There is no acceptable margin for error.
So for B2B, the benchmark is essentially perfection. How is that achieved?
Through immense investment in preventative and recovery systems, B2B vendors pour resources into quality assurance, building redundant systems that can take over instantly if a primary one fails, and having robust disaster recovery plans. Data is often backed up across geographically separate locations to ensure that even a regional disaster won't take the service offline. The entire philosophy is built on creating a fortress of stability.
And how does that contrast with the consumer space? I know I've certainly experienced my fair share of social media outages or app glitches.
And that's the key difference. While no company wants their service to go down, consumer products can tolerate some downtime. If a streaming service is unavailable for an hour, it's an annoyance for users, but it's not a systemic failure that halts their lives or businesses. Updates and fixes can be rolled out frequently to address issues.
That points to a different primary challenge for B2C then. If it's not about achieving near-perfect uptime, what is the main reliability hurdle?
Scalability. The biggest reliability challenge for a popular consumer app is often how to support millions of simultaneous users without performance degradation. The engineering focus is on building an architecture that can handle massive, unpredictable spikes in traffic. Think of a viral video or a major news event, and scaling resources up and down efficiently.
That leads us directly into the realm of security. Protecting a system from failure is one thing, but protecting it from malicious actors is another entirely. How does the B2B security model reflect its mission-critical nature?
The B2B security posture is defined by control and auditability. Since the software is handling sensitive corporate data, security is paramount. Standard features include things like single sign-on, which lets employees use their corporate credentials to access the software, and role-based access control, ensuring that individuals can only see and interact with data relevant to their job function.
It's about creating a digital environment that mirrors the company's own organizational structure and security policies.
Precisely. B2B solutions emphasize structure, security, and organizational segmentation. Strong data encryption, both when the data is stored and when it's being transmitted, is non-negotiable. The goal is to create a verifiable, auditable trail of who did what and when, providing the enterprise customer with complete assurance that their data is segregated and protected.
On the B2C side, I imagine the focus shifts from organizational control to individual user experience.
Absolutely. While security is still important, the approach prioritizes user convenience. The authentication process, for example, is designed to be as frictionless as possible. This is where you see the prevalence of social logins, allowing users to sign in with their existing Google or Facebook accounts, and biometrics, like Face ID or fingerprint scanners for passwordless access.
So the design goal is good enough security that doesn't hinder the user experience.
Exactly. It's a balancing act. B2C products implement robust measures like multi-factor authentication, but often in a risk-based way. You might only be prompted for a second factor if you're logging in from a new device or location. The system is designed to be smart enough to add friction only when it's truly necessary, unlike in the B2B world where strict protocols are often always enforced.
The final pillar here is compliance, which feels like the formalization of these reliability and security principles. It's a huge factor in the enterprise world.
It's a deal breaker. B2B software vendors often must comply with a whole alphabet soup of industry regulations to even be considered by a potential customer. For example, if you're selling to the healthcare industry in the US, you must be HIPAA compliant to protect patient health information. If you handle customer data for European citizens, you need to adhere to GDPR. And then there are standards like SOC 2, which is an auditing procedure that ensures a vendor securely manages data to protect the interests of their clients and the privacy of their customers.
These aren't just suggestions, they are mandatory requirements that require significant investment to meet and maintain.
Correct. Achieving these certifications involves rigorous third-party audits and demonstrates a vendor's commitment to security and operational excellence. For an enterprise buyer, seeing these certifications is a critical signal of trust and reliability.
And for consumer products, is the compliance landscape simpler?
It's typically more focused on broad consumer privacy and payment security. Compliance often centers on consumer privacy regulations like GDPR and ensuring payment processing is PCI compliant to protect credit card information. The scope is generally narrower than the deep operational audit standards you see in B2B.
So, bringing this all together, what is the fundamental strategic implication of these differences? How does this shape the DNA of a B2B versus a B2C company?
The enterprise software strategy is fundamentally about risk management and assurance. A significant portion of the engineering budget is allocated to stability, advanced security features, and achieving and maintaining compliance certifications. Trust is the primary currency, and it's built by delivering consistent, high-quality, and verifiably secure performance over the long term.
Whereas for consumer software, the strategy seems to be more about agility and user adoption.
That's a great way to put it. The consumer software strategy emphasizes the speed of development and creating a seamless user journey. Safeguards are user-centric. Think intuitive password recovery flows or risk-based authentication that adds security without frustrating the user. The goal is to build a secure enough environment that doesn't impede growth, engagement, and rapid iteration.
It's a profound difference in philosophy. B2B builds a fortress designed for stability and trust, while B2C builds a dynamic city designed for growth and convenience, with security services that adapt to the flow of traffic.
An excellent analogy, and that difference in core philosophy has massive downstream effects. It doesn't just shape the product, it shapes how you talk about the product. Having built these two fundamentally different types of software, how do you then take them to market and convince people to use them?
That's the perfect question to tee up our next episode. We've talked about the product and the support around it, and now the internal quality that defines it. The next logical step is to explore how these products are branded and sold. Join us next time on the Software Spectrum as we unravel the divergent worlds of B2B and B2C marketing and branding strategy. Welcome to the Software Spectrum, B2B versus B2C. In our last episode, we delved into the critical foundations of software: quality, reliability, and security. We explored how enterprise software demands near-perfect uptime and stringent compliance, while consumer software often prioritizes rapid recovery and user-friendly security. But once you've built a robust, secure, and reliable product, how do you convince anyone to actually use it? How do you translate technical excellence into market success? That's the question we're tackling today, as we shift our focus from the internal architecture to the external voice of a product. We'll be dissecting the vastly different worlds of marketing and branding for enterprise versus consumer software.
Exactly. It's a fascinating pivot. You can have the most secure, reliable system in the world, but if your message doesn't resonate with your intended audience, it's like a brilliant invention locked away in a workshop. Today, we'll unpack why B2B marketing is a targeted, logical conversation focused on return on investment, while B2C marketing is a broad, emotional appeal designed to create desire. We'll explore the specific tactics each side uses, from account-based marketing and technical white papers in the enterprise world to viral social media campaigns and influencer partnerships in the consumer space. And finally, we'll examine the strategic implications of these divergent paths, how they shape everything from budget allocation to the very tone of a brand's voice.
And this isn't just a theoretical exercise. Understanding these differences is crucial for anyone involved in building or selling software. The strategies that make a consumer app a household name would likely fall completely flat if applied to a complex enterprise platform, and vice versa. The very definition of a successful brand identity is fundamentally different. So, let's begin by establishing the core principles. What does a marketing and branding strategy truly look like in the high-stakes world of enterprise software?
In the enterprise space, the entire approach is built on a foundation of logic, trust, and long-term value. The audience isn't a single consumer, it's a complex web of stakeholders, from the CIO and CFO to the end users in a specific department. Therefore, the messaging can't be frivolous or based on fleeting trends. It has to be substantive and directly address the organization's pain points. The central question every piece of B2B marketing must answer is, how will this solution make our business more efficient, more profitable, or more secure? The focus is squarely on return on investment, or ROI.
So we're talking about a highly rational sales process. The purchase decision for a piece of enterprise software can take months, even years, and involves significant financial investment and organizational change. The marketing, therefore, needs to support that long, considered journey.
Precisely, and that dictates the tactics. You won't see a B2B software company running a Super Bowl ad. Instead, their budget is strategically allocated to what we call content-driven, targeted approaches. A cornerstone of this is thought leadership. This involves creating in-depth content like white papers that analyze a complex industry problem, case studies that provide a detailed account of how they solved that problem for another client, and webinars that showcase their expertise. The goal is not just to sell a product, but to establish the company as an indispensable expert in their field.
This sounds much more like a consultation than traditional advertising. The brand isn't just shouting its name, it's demonstrating its value through education.
That's a perfect way to put it. Another key tactic is account-based marketing, or ABM. Instead of casting a wide net, marketers identify a specific set of high-value target companies and create highly personalized campaigns aimed directly at them. This could involve direct outreach, customized content, and even exclusive industry events. It's about building a deep, lasting relationship, not just making a quick sale. The brand itself reflects this. B2B branding is typically serious, professional, and understated. It communicates stability, reliability, and expertise. Trust is the ultimate currency, and it's built through glowing testimonials, positive peer reviews from other industry leaders, and a proven track record of excellent support. The brand positioning emphasizes that they are a stable partner who will be there for the long haul.
It's a very different universe from the consumer world, where brands often strive to be seen as fun, exciting, or even rebellious. When we switch our lens to B2C software, what are the fundamental drivers of its marketing and branding?
If B2B is a logical argument, B2C is an emotional story. The goal is to capture the attention of millions of individual users in a very crowded and noisy marketplace. The purchase decision is often impulsive and low cost, sometimes even free. Therefore, the marketing has to create an immediate connection, a sense of desire, or a feeling of belonging. The messaging doesn't focus on ROI. It focuses on personal benefits, entertainment, social status, or solving an immediate personal problem.
So the emphasis shifts from how will this improve my business to how will this make my life better, easier, or more fun?
Exactly, and the tactics reflect this emotional, broad-reach approach. B2C brands live and breathe on social media, using platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook to create viral campaigns and build communities. They partner with influencers who can lend their credibility and personality to the product. The advertising is often flashy and memorable. Think clever TV commercials, catchy slogans, or immersive experiential events. It's all about creating buzz and staying top of mind.
And the branding itself becomes a crucial differentiator. In a sea of similar apps, the brand is what makes a user choose one over the other.
Absolutely. B2C branding is designed to be instantly recognizable and memorable. This is where iconic logos, quirky mascots, and unforgettable slogans come into play. The brand's personality might be playful, luxurious, minimalist, or disruptive. The aim is to create a strong brand affinity where users don't just use the product, they feel like they are part of a tribe. To drive quick conversions and keep users engaged, B2C marketers also heavily rely on short-term promotions, flash sales, limited-time discounts, referral bonuses, and loyalty rewards programs. It's about creating a sense of urgency and constant activity.
These two approaches really are night and day. One is a carefully constructed, long-term courtship based on logic and trust, while the other is a high-energy, widespread campaign to win hearts and minds through emotion and immediacy.
It's like the difference between commissioning a master architect to design a corporate headquarters and attending a spectacular, open-to-the-public art installation. To design the headquarters, the B2B sale, the architect spends months understanding the company's workflow, structural needs, security requirements, and long-term growth plans. They present detailed blueprints, material analyses, and financial projections. Their reputation is built on a portfolio of successful, reliable projects and testimonials from other CEOs. The final building is a testament to precision, function, and enduring quality. It's a logical, high-stakes, long-term partnership.
A very clear analogy. And the art installation?
That's the B2C launch. The artist wants to captivate as many people as possible instantly. They create a visually stunning, emotionally resonant experience. People hear about it through social media, news articles, and word of mouth. They flock to see it, take photos, and share their experience online. The installation creates a powerful, immediate emotional connection. It's not about long-term utility, it's about the feeling, the story, the spectacle. The goal is mass appeal and creating a memorable, shareable moment. The architect builds a relationship with a few key decision-makers. The artist creates a buzz that ripples through the general public.
That really crystallizes the strategic implications. The choice of where to even spend the marketing budget is a direct consequence of this fundamental difference.
Without a doubt, a B2B marketing leader allocates their budget to channels where they can have those deep consultative conversations. That means investing heavily in their presence on professional networks like LinkedIn, building sophisticated email nurturing campaigns to guide leads through the long sales funnel, and having a significant presence at industry trade shows and conferences where they can meet potential clients face-to-face. Their marketing team is likely staffed with content writers who have deep industry expertise.
In contrast, the B2C marketer is playing a numbers game, but one based on sentiment. They need to be where the consumers are and speak their language.
Precisely. Their budget is funneled into mass reach channels. This means large-scale advertising campaigns on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, television commercials during primetime slots, and partnerships with high-profile influencers. Their team is filled with social media managers, brand storytellers, and creative directors who are experts at capturing the public's imagination. This strategic divide affects everything. The tone of messaging for a B2B product is formal and authoritative. The tone for a B2C product might be witty, humorous, or aspirational. The choice of advertising medium, the metrics for success, the skills required on the marketing team, all of it flows from this core distinction.
It's a powerful reminder that a product doesn't exist in a vacuum. The way it's perceived, discussed, and sold is just as critical as its underlying code. We've seen how the logical, relationship-driven marketing of the B2B world contrasts sharply with the emotional, broad-reach strategies of the B2C space. It's the difference between a detailed white paper and a viral TikTok video, a professional trade show and a pop-up experiential event.
And this naturally leads us to our next question. Once a product is out in the market shaped by one of these distinct marketing strategies, how do you listen to your audience? How do you gather feedback and decide what to build next? A B2B company that has nurtured deep relationships with a handful of major clients will have a very different feedback loop than a B2C company with millions of individual users. In our next episode, we'll explore the world of feedback and iteration, examining how direct customer input drives B2B roadmaps and how large-scale data and A/B testing fuel the rapid, constant evolution of consumer products.
Welcome! You're listening to the Software Spectrum, B2B versus B2C. In our last discussion, we navigated the distinct worlds of marketing and branding, exploring how a B2B company builds trust through expertise, while a B2C brand captures hearts and minds through emotional connection and storytelling.
We saw how those different strategies are all about getting the product into the hands of the user. But that's just the beginning of the journey. Once a customer, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or an individual user, starts using your software, a new and arguably more critical phase begins. The product must evolve. The real question is, how does it evolve? And who dictates the direction of that evolution?
Precisely. The journey from version 1.0 to 2.0 and beyond is not a straight line. It's a path forged by feedback. Today, we're dissecting that very process, feedback and iteration. We'll explore the methodical, client-driven evolution of enterprise software and contrast it with the rapid, data-fueled iteration of consumer products.
And understanding this difference is fundamental. It explains why your corporate CRM feels so stable and unchanging, while your favorite social media app seems to have a new interface every other week. This isn't arbitrary. It's a direct reflection of two profoundly different strategic philosophies for product development. This directly builds on our marketing conversation because the promises you make in your marketing must be fulfilled by the product's ongoing development.
Let's start with the enterprise side of the spectrum. When a B2B company thinks about improving its product, where does it look for guidance? It's not looking at anonymous usage data from millions of people.
No, it's looking at its phone, its email inbox, and its calendar. The feedback loop is direct, personal, and often contractual. Enterprise product development is driven by high-touch, qualitative input. Think about a major client, like a global bank, using a complex financial modeling software. If they find a critical bug or need a new feature to comply with a new regulation, they don't just send a tweet into the void.
They have a dedicated account manager. They have quarterly business reviews. Their feedback comes in the form of detailed support tickets, formal feature requests, and conversations during pilot programs for new modules. The product team at the software company might work directly with a small group of these strategic clients to co-create the roadmap.
And that creates a very different set of priorities. The roadmap isn't necessarily about what would be cool or what might attract the most new users in the abstract. It's about solving the specific, high-stakes problems of the clients that generate the most revenue. A single feature request from a key client who pays millions in annual recurring revenue can single-handedly dictate the development priorities for an entire quarter. Stability is paramount. You cannot risk disrupting the core business workflows of your clients.
This is why release cycles in B2B are often much slower and more deliberate. An update isn't just pushed out overnight. It's planned months in advance, communicated clearly, and often rolled out in stages. There will be sandboxes, user acceptance testing, and detailed documentation. The goal is to avoid disruption at all costs. A prime example is something like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. While they do add new features, their core functionality, the way Gmail or Excel fundamentally works, remains incredibly consistent over long periods. They prioritize reliability because millions of businesses depend on that predictability for their daily operations.
It's a partnership model of development. The software vendor and the client are in a long-term relationship. The product evolves through conversation and negotiation. I like to think of a B2B product manager as a civil engineer designing a major bridge. They consult extensively with city planners and transportation authorities, their key stakeholders. They can't just try out a new experimental support structure because it looks interesting. The design must be meticulously planned, tested in models, and built to withstand incredible stress for decades. The cost of failure is catastrophic.
That is a perfect analogy. The focus is on strength, reliability, and serving a defined critical purpose. Now, let's slide over to the other end of the software spectrum. If the B2B world is a direct conversation, the B2C world is about listening to the roar of a crowd.
And interpreting that roar using data. With potentially millions of users, you can't have a personal conversation with each one. So, B2C product development becomes a quantitative science. It's driven by analytics, A/B testing, and user behavior metrics. You're not asking what users say they want, you're observing what they actually do.
Exactly. A B2C product team at a company like Netflix or Spotify is obsessed with data. Which button the users click more? If we change the color of the play icon from green to blue, does it increase engagement by 0.1%? They can roll out a new feature to 1% of their user base, measure its impact on key metrics like session time or conversion rate, and decide whether to roll it out to everyone else based on statistically significant results.
This enables a breathtaking pace of iteration. Updates can be pushed weekly or even daily. The philosophy is one of continuous experimentation. You release a minimum viable feature, see how it performs in the wild, and then iterate on it relentlessly based on the data you collect. Users of consumer apps generally have a higher tolerance for minor glitches and changes. In fact, they often expect a constant stream of novelty and innovation to keep them engaged.
Think about the evolution of an app like Instagram. Over the years, we've seen the introduction of stories, reels, direct messaging, and shopping, all of which were likely tested extensively on segments of the user base before a full rollout. Each change was a calculated bet, validated by data, aimed at maximizing growth and user engagement in a fiercely competitive market. The product is never done. It's in a perpetual state of flux, always adapting to user behavior.
To extend my earlier analogy, if the B2B manager is a civil engineer, the B2C product manager is a chef running a massive experimental restaurant chain. They are constantly introducing new items to the menu in select locations. They track sales data relentlessly. Did the new spicy chicken sandwich outsell the classic version? Is the new avocado toast driving more brunch traffic? Dishes that don't sell are removed immediately, and popular ones are refined and rolled out nationwide. The goal is to constantly optimize the menu to appeal to the broadest possible taste, knowing that not every experiment will be a success.
The strategic implications flowing from these two models are immense. In B2B, product strategy is about deep customer intimacy. It involves careful, long-term roadmap planning and sometimes even building custom features for a single high-value client. The entire process is designed to build trust and minimize churn in high-stakes environments.
Whereas in B2C, the strategy is about agility and learning at scale. It emphasizes rapid experimentation, data-driven decision-making, and the velocity of iteration. The goal is to find what works for the largest number of users as quickly as possible, even if it means some experiments fail along the way. You're trading the certainty of direct feedback for the statistical power of a massive sample size.
It also changes the skill set required for the product teams. B2B product managers often need to be excellent negotiators and relationship managers, deeply understanding a client's business. B2C product managers, on the other hand, need to be skilled data analysts, capable of designing experiments and interpreting complex data sets to find meaningful signals in the noise.
And it's important to note that these worlds are beginning to blend. We see B2B companies, especially in the SaaS space with a product-led growth model, adopting B2C tactics like A/B testing on their sign-up flows. And some B2C companies create user councils or super user groups to gather more qualitative B2B style feedback.
That's a crucial point. The spectrum is not a binary choice, but understanding the core principles of each end of the spectrum is key to making informed strategic decisions. You have to decide if your product's evolution will be guided by the distinct voice of a powerful partner or by the collective behavior of a vast crowd. Ultimately, the method of feedback and iteration you choose must align with the nature of your customer and the problem you're solving. A mistake in an enterprise product can halt a company's operations. A mistake in a consumer product might just annoy a user until the next update. The stakes define the strategy.
So we've established how these products are built and refined through vastly different feedback loops. This naturally leads to our next question. How do these development strategies affect the user's journey with the product over time? One model fosters slow, deep integration, while the other aims for rapid, viral uptake.
This sets the stage for a critical discussion on how users come on board and why they decide to stay or leave. The very nature of a product's iteration, slow and stable versus fast and experimental, has a direct and profound impact on user behavior. Exactly. And that is where we will pick up in our next episode, when we delve into the dynamics of adoption, churn, and stickiness, exploring why switching your corporate accounting software is a monumental task, while deleting a game from your phone is a momentary impulse. Welcome once again to the Software Spectrum, B2B versus B2C. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Edith.
Last time, we dissected the very different worlds of feedback and iteration, exploring how B2B companies build based on direct, strategic client input, while B2C companies navigate a sea of quantitative data and rapid A/B testing.
Exactly. But that conversation left a critical question hanging in the air. Once you've built and iterated on that product, what's next? Getting it into the hands of users is one thing, but how do you convince them to stay? It's not just about building a great product, it's about getting it adopted and making it indispensable.
Which brings us to the core of today's episode. We're moving from creation to integration, looking at the crucial concepts of adoption, churn, and stickiness. We'll explore how enterprise software is methodically rolled out versus the potential for explosive viral growth in consumer apps.
And we'll examine the consequences when users leave, what we call churn, and the powerful forces that keep them there, a concept often called stickiness. These dynamics are fundamentally different across the B2B and B2C landscapes and have massive strategic implications for how these companies operate and survive.
Let's start with adoption. When we think of enterprise software adoption, it's rarely an impulse decision by a single user. It's a structured, often lengthy process.
That's right. It's less of a purchase and more of a corporate initiative. The adoption lifecycle for enterprise software often begins with extensive pilot programs. A company might roll out the new software to a single department to test its capabilities, measure productivity impacts, and identify integration challenges. It's a deliberate, phased approach. You see a formal process involving awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, and finally, adoption.
This sounds like a high-stakes, high-effort endeavor from the very beginning. The company is investing significant resources just to try the software.
Precisely. And that initial investment is just the beginning. Successful adoption hinges on comprehensive onboarding and training for entire divisions. You can't just drop a complex ERP system on a finance department and expect them to figure it out. It requires structured training sessions, creating internal champions for the software, and often a dedicated change management strategy to overcome employee resistance.
It paints a picture of a very heavy, deliberate process. What does this mean for the growth curve of a B2B product?
It means growth is typically gradual and relationship-driven. You aren't chasing millions of individual users, you're securing one major enterprise client at a time, and that sales cycle can take months or even years. But once that software is deployed and integrated into the core workflows of the business, it becomes incredibly entrenched.
Let's contrast that with the consumer space. B2C adoption can look like a wildfire.
Absolutely. A B2C app can go from 0 to 10 million users in a matter of weeks. The key driver here is often virality. Think about an app that introduces a fun social filter or a game with a unique sharing mechanic. When users share their creations or results, they are essentially marketing the app to their entire network. This creates a viral loop. One user's engagement brings in several new users who then repeat the cycle.
So, while the B2B model is about deep strategic integration into a few large entities, B2C is about broad, rapid expansion across a massive population of individuals. There's no lengthy pilot program for a new social media app. Users download it, try it, and decide within minutes if it's for them.
Exactly. The onboarding has to be flawless and immediate, demonstrating value in the first few seconds. There's no room for a detailed training manual. Success depends on strategies like referral programs, influencer marketing, and creating easily shareable user-generated content. It's an entirely different psychological and logistical game, a game of instant gratification.
This naturally leads to the concept of stickiness. In the B2B world, after that long adoption process, what keeps a customer from leaving?
In a word, friction, or more formally, high switching costs. Once a company has invested thousands of hours into training its employees, migrating petabytes of historical data, and integrating the software into its custom-built internal systems, the cost and disruption of tearing it all out are immense. It's not just the financial cost of a new license, it's the operational chaos, the loss of productivity during the transition, and the risk that the new system might not work as well.
So, the stickiness is almost built in as a result of the deep integration. The software becomes part of the company's central nervous system.
That's the perfect analogy. It's deeply embedded. This is why B2B companies can often lock in customers with multi-year contracts. They know that once a client is fully onboarded, they are very unlikely to leave, even if a competitor offers a slightly better feature or a lower price. The focus isn't just on acquiring the customer, but on ensuring their ongoing success through dedicated support, account management, and aligning the product roadmap with their future needs. This maximizes the customer lifetime value, or CLV.
Let's unpack CLV a bit. In the B2B context, it seems like the most critical metric.
It is. CLV is the total revenue a business can expect from a single customer account throughout their entire relationship. Given the high cost of acquiring an enterprise customer, B2B businesses must ensure that each customer stays for a long time and ideally expands their usage through upsells and cross-sells. A healthy LTV to CAC, customer acquisition cost, ratio, often cited as 3-to-1 or higher, signals sustainable growth. Losing a single enterprise customer can be a devastating blow to revenue, so the entire business model is oriented around retention and CLV optimization.
Now, let's flip back to B2C. If adoption can be explosive, I imagine the exodus can be just as swift. The stickiness seems much more fragile.
It is. Consumer loyalty is far more fleeting. Users might abandon an app if a competitor offers a better user interface, a new novelty, or simply because they get bored. The switching costs are practically zero. It takes 2 taps to uninstall an app and another 2 to install a competitor's. There's no data migration or retraining to worry about.
So how do B2C products create stickiness without those high barriers to exit?
They have to create it through the product itself, primarily through 2 mechanisms: network effects and habit formation. Network effects are when a product becomes more valuable as more people use it. Think of a social network or a messaging app. Its primary value comes from the fact that all your friends are on it. Leaving means cutting yourself off from that network.
And habit formation?
That's about integrating the product into a user's daily routine. A news app that sends a compelling morning briefing, a fitness app that tracks a daily streak, or a game with daily rewards. These products use triggers, actions, and rewards to create a compelling loop that makes checking the app an unconscious habit. They also use personalization and gamification to keep the experience engaging.
This all points to a fundamental difference in how they view churn, the rate at which customers stop doing business with a company. For B2B, churn is a 5-alarm fire. For B2C, it seems more like an accepted cost of doing business.
That's a great way to put it. B2B churn rates are generally lower, averaging around 5 to 10% annually because of that stickiness we discussed. Losing even one major account is a crisis. In B2C, annual churn rates can be much higher, sometimes 20 to 40% or more, depending on the industry. The model isn't about retaining every single user. It's about acquiring users at such a massive scale that the business can absorb a higher level of churn. The strategy is to fill the bucket faster than it leaks.
So the strategic implications are profound. B2B companies are playing a long game. They trade a slower, more deliberate adoption curve for incredibly high retention and deep customer relationships. Their focus is on customer success and maximizing lifetime value.
While B2C companies are in a sprint for scale, they invest heavily in marketing, virality, and product hooks to grow their user base as quickly as possible. They accept higher churn as a trade-off for explosive growth, focusing on engagement metrics like the ratio of daily active users to monthly active users to measure the product's true stickiness.
It's a fascinating duality. One side builds a fortress, brick by painstaking brick, designed to be impregnable. The other builds a festival, attracting enormous crowds with spectacle and energy, knowing that the attendees will constantly be coming and going.
And neither approach is inherently better. They are simply different strategic responses to the nature of their respective markets. The enterprise needs stability and deep integration. The consumer wants novelty and immediate value. Understanding which game you're playing, the fortress or the festival, is the key.
This really brings our journey through the software spectrum to a fitting close, from market analysis and pricing to feedback, and now, finally, to how users join and why they stay. We've seen how the path for B2B and B2C products diverges at every critical juncture.
It's a reminder that while the technology might be similar, the business, the psychology, and the strategy are worlds apart. The context of who you're building for changes absolutely everything. Thank you for joining us on the Software Spectrum, B2B versus B2C.